It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome in to the Sports Blitz on a rainy Wednesday here in Russellville. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter in the Cogswell Motors studios to bring you the latest in local, state, and national sports. Lots of good stuff on the old sheet of destiny over here, as the woodshed guys call it. For a Wednesday, we've got NBA playoffs. We've got a little bit of the NFL draft that we want to talk about. I thought it was interesting that Michael Sam is his jersey is the number 2 selling rookie jersey behind Johnny Manziel.
What number is it? Does he even have a
96,
number?
96, I think.
Oh, he's got a number now.
What they decided to give him?
Clippers got robbed.
Clippers did not get robbed, okay? We're going to talk about how that's not true.
I can't
either.
wait to talk about it.
No, it's long story, and we'll get to it here in just a little bit. We've been talking about this before the show. We've also been talking about something we'll save for another time about how if you say Michael Jordan is the best player and most dominant, using that D word, dominant player of all time, who's number 2? We had this conversation last night. It went on Twitter, it went on Facebook, and it rolled on for a long time, and we just had a little bit of a round table discussion here a little bit ago, and Weldon's almost got me to change my mind. So lots of good stuff on the show today, Mr. Weldon. I don't know if you liked what you saw from the NBA games last night, but one of those series is a little better than the other.
Oh, look, there was bad basketball last night. First of all, the Pacers. That's really all I need to say about the bad basketball that took place. And you know what's a shame, though, before I get to the other game last night, is they're still probably going to win this series. And I know it doesn't look like it right now, but they're still probably going to give Miami some issues. As much of a shame as that is, and I'm going to talk about that more a little bit later. But when you look in the West, I don't want to see, I told you this before the show, only teams I want to see in the NBA Finals are the Miami Heat and the San Antonio Spurs, because the other teams can't play basketball. First of all, the Pacers and the Wizards just aren't good. Portland's not ready. And even though the Thunder and the Clippers have talent, they make too many dumb mistakes. I mean, we're going to talk about the controversial call. Obviously, that's a big story. But to me, Oklahoma City didn't flat out play lights out. Russell Westbrook took a hero shot with 6 seconds left that was unnecessary, but he still looks good as a hero because he
had 38.
He had 38, made big free throws, but what if he misses that shot? You think we're dogging Westbrook this morning?
Oh, we are hard.
You got 6 seconds left. You take a contested shot from way behind the 3-point line, but Chris Paul makes a dumb foul and then he bails him out. So that was just bad on multiple accounts.
We're going to talk, like you said, about the other play, but can I just say something? I've seen more 4-point plays this year than I've ever seen ever. If you foul a 3-point, I think fouling a 3-point shooter is the dumbest play in basketball. Coach used to say, don't step a foot on the line because that's the worst shot in basketball. You step back an inch and it's a 3-pointer instead of a 2-pointer. The 2-pointer is the worst shot in basketball. The fouling of a 3-point shooter is the worst play in basketball, in my opinion, because for one, if you're guarding the guy well enough, he ain't going to shoot it. If you're not guarding him well enough and he gets the shot off, you compound it by fouling him. It's just double the stupid. And I know Russell Westbrook was shooting that no matter what. So Chris Paul being there, it was kind of happenstance. But he lunged at him, and he hit him on the arm, and he airballed a 3. I mean, you don't do that. Stand there and make him shoot a contested shot with your hands right in the air. If the refs blow a whistle, if they're straight in the air, not toward him at all, if they're straight in the air and the refs blow the whistle, then you just come Doc Rivers style into the postgame, and you scream at the refs.
Yeah, and let's look at it logically. Think about how many jump shots have been taken over the course of NBA history, and how many of those jump shots have been blocked. 0.001%, how many zeros you want to put in there. Chris Paul is 6 feet tall on a tall day, and Westbrook is 6'3" and extremely athletic. What chances do you give Chris Paul of jumping up, blocking that shot anyway? And you mentioned Doc Rivers, and I looked at the Doc Rivers frustration like this. It would be easy for me to sit up and say, I'm sitting on my couch watching. I'm not emotionally invested in the game. Be like, Doc, what's wrong with you? You that's basketball. That's the way it goes. You need to calm down. But then I'm thinking, what if I'm Doc Rivers? you're emotional. It's a hotly contested series and game. As soon as you get done coaching, you go right to the press room. You're not thinking logically. You're not thinking like that fan who's comfortably in their living room. You are just flat out irate because you believe you got jobbed. No questions about it. So it's not so much whether or not I agree with Doc's rant. It's just that I am more understanding because you put yourself in that position. You've competed, Mark, before, and I've competed. And right after the moment when you don't play well, you don't win, you're going to say a lot of stuff that's probably illogical whatsoever. But that being said, I am interested to see what the league is going to do because, whether he was emotional or not, he still probably shouldn't have said what he said as far as the rules.
I'll be honest with you. I watched the game, and I'm going to tip off a little bit of what I have for later, but I didn't really agree with what Doc Rivers was saying,
right?
Because I'll give you my point here in a little bit, but I totally agree with the fact that he said it. For one, like you said, in the heat of the moment, you walk into a press conference 5 minutes literally after the game is over, you're screaming at the ref, "That's our ball, that's our ball, that's our ball," for 5 minutes, and then you have to go sit in front of cameras and they ask you questions. He did as great a job as I've ever heard a coach in the press conference after the game of taking ownership of the Clippers blew that game big time. They absolutely choked, and Chris Paul even said it, and I really appreciated the way that he handled it as well. He said, "Look, I screwed up, made probably the worst play I've ever made in my career." Doc Rivers said the same sort of thing. We had chances, but at the end of the day, the refs took it from us. Don't agree with what he said. I agree with his ability to say it. I don't think he should get fined. He's going to get fined because you just can't say anything about the refs other than that they smell wonderful and their farts smell like roses. But the refs, they deserve to get criticized when they make bad calls. I don't know that one was necessarily a bad call. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. Maddie thinks it was. But Doc Rivers, I think, handled it about as well as you possibly can, although we don't necessarily agree with everything he said.
Yeah, and look, let me just say this about Doc, too. I said the Clippers' only chance to win this series was Doc Rivers had to outcoach Brooks, and I think he's done that as much as you can do. But I just think Oklahoma City is the better team, and because when the Clippers are on top, it's like everything's clicking, everything's perfect. But when the Thunder are playing well, they can play bad basketball and still beat the Clippers. So that's what leads me to believe that the Thunder are going to win this series. Could be as soon as tomorrow. But Doc Rivers, we know about the Sterling mess, but that's a whole nother story. And they've dealt with that. The AIDS, Mark, the AIDS. But Doc's dealt with that. The Clippers have dealt with that. They're just not a great team. I mean, I don't want to get too much into our NBA analysis, but I think Doc's done as much as he could do. I don't blame him. I agree with you. I think he will get fined.
Let's move real quickly because we're going to get to the NBA playoffs more here in just a little bit. The state baseball playoffs, all of them that I've seen so far, and softball, they're going to be moved back to Friday start, so you're not going to see your teams playing tomorrow. Like I know Pottsville was playing in Nashville on Thursday. That's now going to be Friday at the earliest. They'll have to reschedule everything due to all this rain. I know that Pottsville and Dover are both in the baseball state tournaments, and I know that the Pottsville softball team is in the state tournament as well. Both of those teams looking to play well coming down the stretch. Obviously, all the 5A teams, if you're in the top four, you're in the state tournament or the state playoffs. 6A teams all make it. So I'd have to look. I know the Hector baseball team is really, really good, and the softball team's good too. So I think both of them are going to be in state, and I'd have to make absolutely certain. And then the Atkins and Danville teams both won their softball tournaments on a coin flip. They had rain out, and they just really didn't have any choice, so the higher seed got to pick heads or tails. They picked tails. Tails never fails, and both teams won their conference tournament, their regional tournament, with a coin flip. So if you're not going to play it, you might as well win it with a coin flip.
Yeah, I guess that's the only fair thing to do.
And we can't really do anything when they rain out and they've got the state tournament starting. So had to do it, had to get it taken care of. Want to make you aware, I posted yesterday, Coach Eli Craner, former Russellville Cyclone, current head football coach of the Clarksville High School Panthers, and junior high and high school, all of it. The serve day that we did on Saturday, and I was kind of ashamed. I'm not going to lie. I went and looked at the numbers of how many people looked at it. I don't mean to browbeat our audience, but if somebody got in a wreck, it's getting thousands of views. If somebody got arrested, it's getting thousands of views, and this can't get to hundreds. It's a really good story. It's a really good feel-good type thing that these kids did for their community. Go check it out. Go look at the pictures. Give those kids a couple minutes of your time to go to see what they did on Saturdays. They went around the community. They painted dugouts. They picked up trash. They helped push carts. They did all kinds of different stuff. They helped rebuild the nature trail in a couple places there in Clarksville around the Spadra area. So it was a really cool day, a really cool opportunity. Appreciate Coach Craner having me there to help out, and I really want you guys to go check it out on the site, not just for our page views, but for them, man. It's a really cool opportunity for them, and they deserve to have a little bit of props their way for doing something good. And then finally, been working on the Brightest Stars Banquet, looking to be a really, really cool event. We got all the presenters pretty well lined out. Who's going to be presenting what? Got the order all lined out. I wish I'd brought in a flyer. We got the flyers finally printed up. Man, they look really good. Posey Printing did a really, really good job on the flyers. They're doing the programs too. I got to see what that's going to look like. It's going to look really, really good and professional. So each one of these nominees and finalists who make their way to the banquet on May 29th, they're going to have a little keepsake. Not only are they going to have that flyer or that program that says, my kid was nominated for this, he was a finalist or a nominee in this award. Right. They're also going to get a framed certificate, and this is like this nice, thick, heavy paper that we're framing up, and we're going to give each nominee. So just as a point of clarification, we're going to, and I hope everybody watches this that is interested in the Brightest Stars Banquet, we've given finalists free tickets for themselves, 2 parents. Now, if your parents can't come and you can bring grandparents, whatever you have to do, but you get those 2 free tickets for your parents or family, whoever, and then your coach. So your head coach. So each finalist, each one of the top 3 get 4 tickets each. They're on a list right now. You don't have to bring a hard copy. You don't have to print anything out. You don't have to ask for anything. You're going to be on a list. I'm Michael Perry. Here's my mom, my dad, and my my head coach. Come on in. We'll mark you off. Everybody who buys a ticket online at rivervalleyleader.com in the top right of the screen, you're going to buy a ticket online through PayPal. We're going to print that list off. We're going to have you there. I'm Joe Schmo. Here's my ID. Come on in. You're good. You don't have to have a ticket. The hard copy tickets are for those who don't feel like, buying things online. There's some folks still who don't buy stuff online, and I understand. And we've got tickets at each high school front office available. Limited number, very limited number, 10 to 20 at most at each one of those schools. So you can go buy a ticket, hard copy ticket there at the school, and then you can present that. But if you're a coach, if you're a parent or a finalist, the top 3 finalists, you get in for free. Now, the nominees, the other people who didn't make the top 3, you're welcome to come. We're going to present you with a certificate like we said. You're going to have to buy a ticket. The reason we're doing that is because it's 250 to 300 people once all the presenters and all the sponsors and everybody who is getting a free ticket gets in. Right. We've got 600 people that are coming. We've got to pay for this catering somehow. Right, we've got to pay for all the amenities somehow. So we have to charge for tickets for the folks that come, especially the fans and people that just come for fun. But we want all the nominees who can to be there. Weldon, I know it's $25 a ticket, and that's going to price some folks out. But at the end of the day, as many of you as can possibly come, we'd love to have this to show you this certificate, to give this to you. And those who can't come, we're going to send it to the school. We're going to get it in their hands.
Yeah, but it's really cool if you can be there. Like you said, some people will price them out. We understand that. I mean, you have to do what you have to do for your budget. But again, Mark, you've made it clear. The purpose of this event is not to fill pockets. It's to pay for the event, and then whatever, if there's any more after that, then roll it over to make it an even bigger banquet for next year. That's the goal. So again, it's all about serving. It's all about elevating these kids. We've talked about there's been banquets and acknowledgments before, but I think once you get there, you're going to understand that this is a little bit different than what's been done in the past.
It's definitely different. I was talking to some folks this morning. They're little, some schools have their own athletic banquet, and they honor each one of their athletes in each school, but it's just their own school. Some schools, like Clarksville, don't even have an athletic banquet anymore. When I was a senior, I didn't even know there was an athletic banquet. They had one, and it was just kind of one of those, I didn't know. It wasn't publicized. It wasn't well thought of, and now it's just gone. Well, this is an opportunity, and I can tell you that there are some Clarksville winners. A couple of them are unopposed, so you know there's going to be some winners of the awards. But Clarksville's got some winners in these Brightest Stars Banquets Player of the Year awards. So I want the Clarksville folks to show up. I want everybody to show up. 9 out of the 10 schools have a winner, and the only reason the other one didn't is because they didn't nominate anybody in most of the sports. So it's a tough draw for them, but I'm hoping that everybody will continue to show up and win some awards in the next coming years, the next few years. But it's going to be a fun event on May 29th. We're working out the details right now. Want as many of you as possible to show up.
Yeah, kind of hard to win if you're not nominated.
Exactly.
I got to give a shout out to Dave Brown. Dave Brown's back there. You can't see him; he's off camera right now. I feel like Dave should be a heckler. I would almost feel better about Dave being in the room if he would heckle us off camera.
What do you call that, a shirt?
Would you call that a shirt?
Yeah. Would you call? Never mind, Dave. We don't want you to heckle after all. If that's
we
your
changed
heckle,
our mind.
Yeah, we changed our mind. But yeah, look, the banquet. It's going to be a fun event. There's no question about it. You're going to getting your nice clothes and shake hands and all that good stuff and schmooze. And it's going to be a good time at the Russellville High School cafeteria.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. I've been getting all kinds of feedback from schools, athletic directors, and coaches, and we're going to have to look at how we can better publicize exactly what's going on and who can come and who we need to come and that type of thing, because each one of the finalists, it would be an absolute shame if the finalists, the top 3 in each sport, don't show up when they've got free tickets waiting on them. I didn't know what to do. Well, you don't have to do anything. You just show up. It would be a shame if they didn't, and then it would be a shame if the nominees didn't realize that they could come and they were going to be rewarded if they were able to buy that ticket and show up, because it's going to be cool for your fellow teammates and people in your sport that you may know. I know that the Clarksville boys, Freddie and Kendrick Lee and Michael Perry are like great friends. I didn't tell anybody this when it happened, but when Freddie and Kendrick Lee text me and, hey, we're committing to Tech, I text Michael Perry and I said, the Lee's just committed to Arkansas Tech, and he said, I'm going to be there too. And I was like, whoa, I couldn't tell anybody because, he just basically told me he committed. So I'm doing some go-between between the proper channels without breaking any NCAA laws here, I'll just say. And find out, later on, Michael Perry commits to Arkansas Tech to play basketball and football. Those two, long story short, they like each other. Those two schools like each other, and those kids sort of root for one another. So I know that there will be some kids who will come to root for other kids and who will come to see some of their friends be rewarded.
Yeah, what I'm thinking, who needs World Wide West when there's Mark Freeman? I mean, Calipari should be coming to you if he wants his little shady backroom recruiting connections. He should just come to you.
No, never shady. But I can just tell you this: Coach Carlskint is he loves me. We're boys. Arkansas Tech looking for a good basketball season next year out of the Lees and Michael Perry and that squad. So anyway, Brightest Stars Banquet, May 29th. Oh, man, I seem to go too long on that every time. But looks like Arkansas Tech baseball is still on for the regional tournament that they're hosting here at the Arkansas Tech field. Man, they've got nice facilities. I feel bad. I hadn't been over there in a while, but they have got some really nice improved facilities over there at Arkansas Tech. Adult tickets $5, student tickets $3. The tournament starts tomorrow for the Wonder Boys, and they're number 3 in the country, number 1 in this regional, and they've got a chance to go on to the big tournament, and which is basically like the Division II College World Series if they win this regional.
Yeah. And we talked about the competition they're going to have to be facing in this event. I hope the weather cooperates. I mean, it's been pretty nasty today. And are there any games today, Mark? I know Tech's tomorrow, but it's Tech. Is there any games?
Let me make sure. I thought it says that the tournament starts the 15th through the 18th, so that would be tomorrow. But I did think on Monday that we talked about it possibly starting on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So.
Well, either way, I just hope the weather cooperates. I mean,
practices began today and the games start tomorrow, so they may have to push everything back.
Yeah, I hope maybe so. And the good thing is, baseball fields, the drainage, drying. Even though it will be muddy around town for a few days, usually they can get that field in good shape, even though it's wet everywhere else. All
right, we got to hit a break. We've come back. We got a little bit of NBA. We've got some controversy in the Clippers and Oklahoma City Thunder game. Will the Heat close out the Brooklyn Nets? We haven't talked about game 4 the other day that happened after we got off the air. Stan Van Gundy got him a new job.
SVG.
We'll talk about some of that stuff, and then we'll also get into the NFL and some wire-related topics.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Doc Rivers said last night, following a collapse by the Los Angeles Clippers, they were up 14 with like 4 minutes left. I'm talking collapse. They just decided that they would play Houston nut ball, put it on their hip for 23 seconds, and then fling one at the rim. That's what they were trying to do for the last 4 minutes of the game, playing not to lose. And Doc Rivers, coming in after the game, talks about a controversial call, and he says they should just do away with replay. Now, he was mad, and I bet you if you had – and he's 0 for 2 this postseason on calls going against him, bad calls in his eyes going against him. One of them was a really bad call. But he says you should just do away with replay. And I'm trying to think. Somebody else here wrote on ESPN, a blog, True Hoop, about how you should get rid of replay. What's the positive to getting rid of replay? You miss more calls. I understand that you don't want Joey Crawford going to the freaking monitor every 5 seconds and looking at something. And I also understand that last night what happened, and we'll set it up here in just a second. What happened was somebody got fouled. And if you listen to Charles Barkley and some of those guys, the refs were trying to make up for the fact that they didn't call a foul by giving the team the ball. When what happened to the Clippers before was the exact opposite.
Right.
Chris Paul got fouled. The ball went off him out of bounds, and when the refs go look at the replay, they see we didn't call the foul, and we can't call the foul, but we have to. It's clear as day that it went off of him, so it's going the other way. What I think you've got to do, Weldon, is you've got to make a way for refs to use common sense inside of replay. If that means they have to change a call and they have to call a foul when there is a foul, do it.
And look, this is every sport that has replay has a certain threshold that they want to break. Baseball does not want to get into balls and strikes. Football does not want to get into reviewing pass interference and holding. And basketball does not want to cross that threshold of reviewing fouls. Like all these sports have this invisible line. Like we want replay, but we won't get into that part of replay.
Yeah.
But it's tough because every time there's a controversy with replay, it is because not only are you looking at if somebody is out or not, you're also looking at a foul. So think about if you're an official, how you must feel. You're going to the monitor and you're looking at a foul you should have called, but you can do nothing about it. Yeah. That's got to be a terrible feeling. Like, oh man, he fouled him, but all we can do is see who touched it. And that's where every time replay comes into play, that's the situation. And so I get the league not wanting to open that can of worms and reviewing fouls, but maybe to something like you said, or maybe an idea would be that when you do have a disputable out-of-bounds call, then a foul is reviewable in that situation. So you still close the door on, you can't have a foul reviewed or anything, because that'd be stupid. If somebody just shot a shot, got fouled, and then they went to the monitor at the end, that'd be dumb. But I agree, there is some common sense medium you need, and maybe it's you can review fouls in the process of reviewing an out-of-bounds call. Out-of-bounds call has to be first.
Yes.
Priority.
Look, the reason I say that is because you've already got in all replay this subjectivity that comes with indisputable visual evidence. If you ask Maddie, or if you ask Doc Rivers, or if you ask somebody who's a Clippers fan,
the Lord above,
right now,
will tell you
if it was indisputable. Here's my point. If you ask one of the people who are on the Clippers side of this, if it's indisputable evidence, they say yes, it is 100% indisputable evidence. That ref last night used his judgment. It's subjective, and he says it wasn't indisputable. I had a question in my mind as to whose it was. So if you're going to be able to do that and use subjectivity in that way, you've got to be able to use common sense inside of a review and say, okay, this ball went off Chris Paul, but he got fouled.
I yield my time to Matt.
I can't compound my mistake in the fact that I didn't call that foul by giving them the ball too. I can't do that. I'm going to fix it because you're going to have some subjectivity anyway. You might as well get the call right. That's just where I am.
You're going to be disappointed, Weldon, because I'm not going to go the direction you thought.
Oh,
because look, Mark is wrong. It's okay. God will forgive him.
No, I want you to. Yeah, I want you to.
Go ahead. Let me have it.
No, but listen, here's something. It's still on the subject, but it's a little weird. I've always wondered why they couldn't have maybe it's just not feasible at all, some kind of sensor system in the ball where they can tell who it went off of automatically, and then Joey Crawford wouldn't have a job, and that would be awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly why they won't do it.
Yeah, that is why. But I've always wondered that. Like, would it take the guesswork out of that? Like, exactly who it went off of if you did something like that. They have the technology, but I've just wondered about stuff like that. I know it seems kind of silly, but
they've been talking about that in the NFL for years, and like lasers across the goal line, did it break the plane type of thing.
Yeah.
It'll get there eventually. Let's break down the play. Okay, this is what happened. For those that didn't watch the game and you've been listening for the last 10 minutes saying, what the heck are you guys talking about? Clippers, Oklahoma City, there wasn't even 30 seconds left in the game when this happened. It was probably less than 20 even. And Chris Paul, who this is his first mistake because they're up 14 points and they've choked it away. He's dribbling down the right sideline and he goes to jump in the air because he doesn't want to get fouled for some reason. When all he has to do is take the foul, go shoot 2 free throws. You could be up 4 when they're up 2 at this point. And he jumps up in the air, turns around, throws it to nobody. Reggie Jackson picks it off. Takes off down the right side, and he's got Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook over here. He should have passed it and got an easy layup. But he goes up, and as he's got to hold the ball with both hands, and he goes up, Matt Barnes comes across. His left hand slaps on the hand on the ball. My opinion, it's irrelevant, but my opinion, he hits the ball when he hits his hand as well. Was a foul, should have been called. Everybody knows that. It wasn't. Ball goes out of bounds. Everybody on the Clippers side says that absolutely touched Reggie Jackson last, and since you didn't call the foul, you've got to give us the ball. Same thing that happened to Chris Paul in the Golden State series. If that's right, if you know that ball touched Reggie Jackson last, you didn't call the foul, you've got to give them the ball. My thought is, when you look at that, there's no way of telling when the ball last touched Reggie Jackson. Matt Barnes touched it. Reggie Jackson had both hands on it. At the very most, if you're going with a conclusive call, at the very most, you got to go jump ball because both guys touched it last, if that's the way you're going to do it. But the call on the floor was Oklahoma City ball because, Matt Barnes knocked it out of his hand. Well, and I watched it, and the way I saw it, when he came and reached in and he hit it, if he hit it far enough on this side, the ball spinning this way. The ball was spinning that way when it came out of Reggie Jackson's hand. And he went up like this, and Matty would assert that his hand was on the ball
And
last
that's
and
the-
it moved.
yeah.
That's where all the Clippers people are at. But you can't tell definitively 100%. If you could tell me 100% sure, like Chris Paul, the ball was off him in the Golden State series, if you can tell me 100% sure, I'm saying, yeah, you got to do it. But if it's not 100% sure, there's that subjectivity that ref has to make a call. They can't go against the call on the floor without indisputable video evidence. You've just got to go with what they did.
Get it, Matty.
I prayed about it.
Okay.
Okay. And he told me. That's how I know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So once again, he'll forgive you. But
Well, here's the thing, though. We got some laws at work because the law of Rasheed Wallace says the call was right because didn't Westbrook make his – that's right. Russell Westbrook made his free throws. So according to the Rasheed Wallace logic.
Rasheed Wallace. I like it.
Apparently the call was right.
So here's the rest of the story, okay? It was one call. There were something like 15 seconds left when this happened. Reggie Jackson, ball goes out of bounds. They get the ball back. Oklahoma City does. They throw it in. Russell Westbrook, with about 6 seconds on the clock, jumps up to shoot a three. Chris Paul fouls him. Hits him on the arm, and the ball comes up a foot short, hits nothing but the side of the backboard. So it was obvious. Down 2, Oklahoma City, with Russell Westbrook shooting 3 free throws. He goes up there, he hits all 3. Oklahoma City's got a 1-point lead. LA still got the chance. They got 6 seconds and the ball at half court. They go down. Chris Paul, he got fouled. He got hit, and the ball came loose. And that didn't get called. But at the end of the day, you go down there in the paint at the end. You better, if you're going to get fouled, you better get fouled in the air. So he's got to be stronger with the ball last second of the game. Turns the ball over, Oklahoma City wins. So there were so many things that happened before and after this one play against Reggie Jackson that leads me to believe it's not such a screw job like everybody wants to make it out to be.
I think Steve Kerr said something really interesting last night, and I think Doc Rivers had the same mindset that last play Chris Paul had. Doc Rivers probably thinking, I've been gnawing on these officials the last minute or two because of the call.
I'm going to get a call.
Yeah, Chris, if you go to the basket, you're going to get a call. And I think Chris passed up 2 chances where he could have pulled up and taken a jump shot, but he was so determined to get to the paint. And Serge Ibaka did a great job. Chris used a hesitation dribble, and he didn't hesitate. Ibaka didn't hesitate with him, and then that, of course, caused the issue. So, and I've said this before, and I'll just go ahead and get into my game discussion as far as I just don't think the Clippers are good enough to beat the Thunder. And I think they can get leads on them. They can beat them in stretches, but it's too – I can watch the Thunder – play effortless basketball. Their margin for error is so much greater than the Clippers to where it's hard for me to see LA beating them twice. And
which is weird.
It's weird.
Because I think LA's got more talented players than Oklahoma City does.
Well, so that's the thing. I agree. The volume of the roster, I think, is clearly on the favor of the Clippers, but the Thunder have the 2 best players because while I feel Chris Paul is a better point guard than Westbrook, Westbrook's a better player than Chris Paul. And I think we've seen that a lot this series. You even look at the 2 games in L.A. People are like, well, they're going back home. Good chance to force Game 7. The Thunder should have swept the 2 games in L.A. They had a great chance to do so. And so I don't really have a lot of confidence in the Clippers even pushing it to a Game 7. And for me, the Clippers' top players, they're not very good. Blake Griffin's improved as a skilled player, but he's still not extremely skilled. DeAndre Jordan, I was right about this before the series. Look, DeAndre Jordan is really great to have on your team, but he's not a great all-around player because he's a vertical, high-jumping type guy. And what do those types of players hate, Mark? They hate contact. And all Perkins is doing is elbowing, and he's not even guarding DeAndre Jordan. It's just when Jordan goes up for a layup or a rebound, he's making the game horizontal, and Jordan wants it to be a vertical game. And, Perkins isn't good for much. Elbow and push.
6 fouls in the scout.
6 fouls in the scout. So you've seen Jordan really taken out of what he wants to do in this series. I think – especially offensively, Big Baby Davis is a much better option on offense than Jordan. Now, defensively, he's a liability. But to me, their stars aren't that good, especially compared to Westbrook and Durant.
I'll just say this. For one, his talk about vertical players wanting to be a vertical game, Blake Griffin, man, just one more thing to say about this. Blake Griffin is the biggest crybaby ever. He's just one of those guys who all he wants to do is run down the floor and dunk on you. And if you don't let him, he's going to cry about it. If you foul him, he's going to cry about it. He's going to throw elbows and he's going to flail around like my son, like he can't control his head. And he just, like, flails around like an idiot. And if you don't let him dunk on you, he's going to cry about it. Me and Jason were talking about this last night. Everything else Weldon said about that series, I've talked a whole lot. I agree with, so I'll say ditto. Finally, as of last night's games, the Washington Wizards beat the Indiana Pacers in Indiana 102-79. They out-rebounded the Indiana Pacers, who have 7-2 All-Star Roy Hibbert, 62-23. They out-rebounded a team by more rebounds than they ever got. They out-rebounded them by 40 rebounds. That is unbelievable.
I just got a text from Hayden. He doesn't appreciate that comparison.
Seriously, Hayden would much rather be compared to somebody else than Blake Griffin. Let him be LeBron. Yeah. Anyway,
let him be
the Pacers last night. Washington just absolutely annihilated the Pacers, and the Pacers just look disinterested. They look like they lost it again. They're so up and down. They're such an awful offensive team. 79 points at home in Game 5. They look like the team that was going down 3-1 rather than the team that was ahead 3-1.
Yeah, because look, Washington, credit, give them all that. They tried hard. Look, this was about the Pacers, and here I'll say what I said on Monday. The Pacers, their main problem is they don't have a championship level initiator, a guy they run their offense. Like George Hill, you can't win a championship as your playmaker, your initiator. And so you can say, well, they could be like Miami, since Paul George is their best player. They can run things through him like Miami does through LeBron. Either I've overrated him, or Paul George just must not be the type of player, because with that roster, you have to run things through your best player. You have to have him. They run plays for him to score, but they don't run plays for him to be a playmaker, facilitator, decision maker. That's why I told you, Paul George is the greatest role player I've seen in NBA history, because he's so talented. He's 6'9", he can dribble, he can defend, he can shoot, but he plays like a role player.
Scottie Pippen's pretty upset with you right now.
Well, Scottie was, I should say talent. That's what I meant, talented. Scottie was a better player than Paul George. But as far as talent, because he's got the tools to be a star, he just doesn't play like it. They don't run things through him. They act like he's just another guy, and they can't win like that.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to get to the Miami Heat, who are going to try to close out the Brooklyn Nets tonight in Game 5. I said earlier on, I think they will too, I said earlier on that they were going to dominate this series, and for all intents and purposes, 3-1, the only game they lost, the Brooklyn Nets hit 15 threes. So they've really dominated like I assumed they would. Outside of that one game, they got a chance at home tonight to close out the Brooklyn Nets. They know how important it is, because the Indiana Pacers now are in a little bit of a dogfight going back to Washington for Game 6, and Miami can get a little bit of rest. They could use that rest. So I'm thinking that they'll get that series closed out. But we'll talk about that and the San Antonio-Portland series. Now Portland's back. Got a game from San Antonio. They're in Portland. They've got to go back to San Antonio, and they've got a chance to bring it back to 3-2 rather than getting closed out tonight. So 2 big games tonight in the NBA we'll get to right after the break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Hey, Maddie, turn your mic on and tell us what you thought about LeBron James going for 49 the other night. Because I don't know about you, but I was a little bit happy and sad at the same time.
I think you should be sad.
And you could tell
it was a lot like the Cavs. You said this before. It was a lot like LeBron and the Miami Cavaliers.
LeBron was sad for a different reason, though. And, you know, he missed that last free throw.
He
You could
had
see
a
the
chance
look on his
at
face.
He was like, man.
And
got a
when
free
they
throw
came
for
up to the
50.
interview, he was just not right.
He's just like, I had a chance for 50. I know history is what he said. He said,
Yeah.
I'm happy to get a win, happy to put up 49, but I understand history, and he wanted to get that 50. Yeah, it was frustrating because what really is frustrating about it is that they won 102-96. LeBron had 49. They had to have 49 points from him to get the 6-point win over the Indiana Pacers. And then the fact that Indiana, or did I say Indiana? Brooklyn. Brooklyn had 5 guys in double figures. They had 18, 16, 13, 13, 10. Guess how many people? Well, that was the wrong game. I'm ridiculous. 49 points from 49 points from LeBron James. You only got 15 from D Wade and 12 from Chris Bosh. I said the other day that they needed to be at about 75. Well, quick math, that is 40, 50, 60, 71, 76.
Well, you didn't clarify. Like one guy wasn't supposed to get all 75.
That's true. It's just, to me, it's kind of scary when a team like Miami has to get so much from LeBron just to get past a crappy Brooklyn team.
And Dwayne Wade's 15. I guess it was 15 he had. It was a sneaky 15 because, listen, as much as I love Dwayne Wade, for being as great as he is, he makes some of the dumbest bonehead plays sometimes.
Yeah.
That just I just look around the room.
He was
like,
Brooklyn's
did everyone
best player
see
the other
that? Because there were like three in a row. It seemed 3 in a row there in a little stretch where he drove into the lane, turned around, and just threw it to the other team. And I was like, really? I mean, it's like it's coming down to the wire. Just throw it to the other team. It's like, dude.
No, I mean, in comparison, he
And
did.
then
He had
LeBron
3 turnovers
will
right
not
in a row.
have touched the ball the whole possession. I'm like, okay, he hasn't touched the ball once. Okay, he's on fire. He has, at that point, 38 points or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, let him touch the ball at least instead of just throwing it to the other team.
I
love Dwayne Wade, though.
I'm glad you two brought that up. I'm going to get to that in a second. I had that on my mind, Dwayne Wade. But I want to talk about this series first because, to me, you mentioned the Nets were getting dominated, and they're down 3-1. But to me, what I was looking for in this series, I feel satisfied because for me, it was never about Brooklyn beating the Heat. It was about what they could do in a series with Miami. And I feel like when you look at it was going to get chippy, it was going to get physical, it was going to get kind of dirty on the Nets side, and they can make some threes. And you saw that kind of makes Miami a little bit uncomfortable. Now, Miami won the game, and that's why they're going to win this series in 5 games. But for me, and I said this before, Miami, when they're playing great, they're hard to beat. You really can't beat them when they're playing great, but everything has to be in line for Miami to play great. That's why I'm a little bit concerned about them. And it'll go to my bigger point, Mark, and I want to see what you think because this is going to be kind of drastic. If they don't win a championship this year, I think they got to break it up, and here's why. LeBron and Dwayne Wade, if they didn't like each other personally, they would be Shaq and Kobe by now. They would be at each other's throats because their basketball games, they don't complement each other comfortably.
They never really did.
They
Yeah,
never really
right.
did. And in 2011, they didn't have any shooting, and it just all fell apart. The last couple of years, they got some shooting, and it kind of helped. But I can't think of which game, but one of the San Antonio games where they both had 30 points. That's one of the few times together where you as a defense were afraid of both of them. Other than that, you're never really afraid of both of them at the same time. The only good thing about having Wade and LeBron together is for 48 minutes, you always have a superstar on the floor.
Yep.
But when they're on the floor together, it's still consistently not, can't do this because of Wade, can't do that because of LeBron. And I think that's kind of the challenge. That's why when it's a little bit off, it kind of goes south for Miami.
I hate the it's your turn type thing that they have to do. I hate the isolation ball, that the Oklahoma City Thunder ball that the Heat have to play sometimes. I'd rather than play that Spurs, pass it around, everybody get open shot type thing. And they do that when things are going well for them. My question to you then, isn't it a little bit, although it's disconcerting a little bit that they're struggling with the team that I don't think is any good in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn's doing what you said they could do and would do. Isn't it a little bit of a relief that, okay, Miami, they're not playing very well and they're winning, and they've got, things can't go worse.
True.
They're not going to go backward going into the next series. They're going to continue to get better. They're sort of greasing the wheels, and they're sort of getting things rolling the way they want it to. Is it a little bit, to you, is it more disconcerting that they're playing bad? Oh, well, they're just going to get caught, in the next round, they're going to get beat. Or do you think this team that's obviously won 2 championships in a row, been to 3 in a row, they're going to get it going in the right direction, and this is kind of a stepping stone? Where you're going?
That's a good question. And I've said this before, I think Miami's beaten. I'm confidently saying they're going to beat anybody other than San Antonio. I'm not saying they're not going to beat San Antonio, but I do think it could be a 7-game series again. It could be just as competitive as last year. I think they're going to dispose of either of the Eastern Conference teams that come out of that other series. I think they would beat the Clippers in 6, and I guess if they played poorly, Oklahoma City could take them to 7, but I still like Miami in that matchup. So unless you're saying San Antonio, I think it could be a good thing. But you mentioned the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I don't know if they can win that way. When we talk about Stan Van Gundy, I'm going to refer back to this because Stan showed something in 2009 that I think has helped LeBron and Spoelstra in this recent era.
Matty.
Oh, I was going to say I agree pretty much exactly with what you were just saying, even with the Heat's deficiencies and LeBron having to do what he had to do the other night, which obviously is a normal thing, but still, that sometimes they have to do that, like Cleveland ball, like Mark was saying. I still agree with you. I don't think there's a team, because you have to put it in perspective. Like, yeah, there's a team that can beat the Heat in a game, but is there a team in the playoffs that you really believe that in a 7-game series are going to beat the Heat 4 times?
I think the Spurs could.
I think they could, but I don't believe it's going to happen.
I'm with him. Yeah. They're the only team that worries me now. Indiana has worried me all year because when Miami's playing pretty well and Indiana's playing at their best, Miami can't get a rebound.
Yeah.
And they're giving up they're just volleyballing it to themselves up there, and then they go lay it in, and their margin for error is a lot wider than Miami's is because they're shooting jump shots. But Miami shoots 50%, with LeBron and D Wade, and they've got superstars when Indiana doesn't have any. And the way Indiana's played recently, they don't scare me at all anymore. The way San Antonio is coached, the way San Antonio is with veteran leadership, and the way Tony Parker's playing right now, the Spurs give me pause.
Yeah, I think so. And the role players have got to continue to hit shots. Ray Allen, Chris Bosh hit a couple of big shots. Ray Allen, their role players haven't hit shots consistently. And so, I'm looking at Mike Miller. He now looks healthy, rejuvenated in Memphis. And I'm thinking, man, they missed that guy.
That would have been nice to have him.
Because your boy.
He just made too much money.
He did. Yeah, they had to get rid of him. But your boy, Norris Cole.
Yeah, he's frustrating
They
too.
need a little more because you look in the finals. Patty Mills wasn't a factor last year.
Yeah,
Patty Mills now is that backup factor that Norris Cole is going to have to match up with.
See, but I think those two would cancel each other out.
Oh,
Mario Chalmers gets destroyed by Tony Parker.
Yeah. He would. But I think if in a backup point guard matchup, though, I would take Patty Mills over. Patty Mills is playing so much better than Norris Cole right now.
He is, but I just think that they would basically cancel each other out. Norris Cole's not scoring, and Patty is, and that's where you're leaning with that. But I think Norris Cole can lock down on D and play pretty well, but he'd have to definitely play better than he's playing right now. I'll give you that. He was a minus 19. He was the worst player on the Heat team in Game 4. Anyway, you said something about our boy Stan Van Gundy. 5 years, $35 million deal to become the Pistons, not the Pacers, the Pistons president and head coach. So you said something that he did.
Yeah, he's going to coach Detroit. Detroit is not good. But it is not. But, I mean, it really.
All right, Chuck.
Well, they're not. Chuck was right. Detroit's not good. But here's the thing, and I'm not even wanting to talk about Stan Van Gundy. It's just a vehicle for me to talk about what I really want to hit. When you look at what that 2009 Orlando team did against Cleveland at the time, I thought it really opened the door for what LeBron James was able to do right now, because you think about LeBron James is playing the 4 spot consistently now in Miami. Very few times, unless it's the Pacers, is he playing the 3. And you go back and look at what Mike Brown was doing in Cleveland. By the way, Mike Brown fired again. But you look at what he was doing in Cleveland, he constantly had that archaic 1995 lineup out there with LeBron at the 3, Big Z at the 4, and Varejao at the 5, well, inverse. Varejao and Big Z in the middle. So think about how condensed the floor was offensively.
How crowded the lane was.
Yeah, the lane was crowded. Rashard Lewis playing the 4 for the other team. Those 2 slow dudes can't get out and guard him. It just got me to thinking about, it's really come a long way. And Stan Van Gundy, he deserves a lot of credit. Obviously, Dwight was in the middle for that. And I'm just thinking what if LeBron, they'd play a little more small ball in Cleveland? Maybe they'd affect that 2009 season. But that's what Stan Van Gundy got me to thinking about, just how LeBron was playing on a compact floor and Mike Brown and physical 1995 lineup. I mean, I look at it now, Mark, I'm thinking, who were you trying to play against Mike Brown? You act like you're about to face Charles Oakley and Patrick Ewing on the front line, or Dale Davis and Rick Smits. I mean, you act like that's who you're about to face with that lineup.
Yes.
You're facing a spread-out 3-point Orlando team, and they shot him right out, as you know.
You got Anthony Mason and Patrick Ewing. And got a squad out there that you got to put Big Z out there.
They act like that's what they were facing.
We really can't blame Mike Brown because he's a terrible coach. He didn't know any better. I mean, he's a terrible coach, but he's got some pretty good representation. He's getting paid by 3 different people to not coach.
He must have Jimmy Sexton as his agent. That must
seriously,
be his agent. Yeah.
He's going to get a raise for being terrible. So, Mike Brown not going to get another NBA head coaching job ever. So, anyway, Stan Van Gundy, like we said, head coach, president of basketball operations for the Detroit Pistons. My first order of business would be, how much can I get for Josh Smith? Bye-bye.
And then Jennings right after.
And Jennings, see ya. And, hey, Greg Monroe, he's really good, but he and Andre Drummond are the same guy. What do you want him to? I would just clean house if I were him, just to redo that whole roster. That'd be my first goal if I'm Sam Van, and then you can build around Andre Drummond. So we've got to take our final break real quickly. We're going to go a little over today, and what are you going to do about it? I mean, you're going to just turn it off? I don't think you are.
Well,
I think you're enjoying this way too much.
Matty got his time in today, so he needs to pay
Matty
it
talked
back.
a little bit, so he's going to get to sit there a little bit longer. We're going to hit our final break of the show. We'll come back and we'll hit a couple more things here in The Wire and our last segment of the Sports Blitz.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out rivervalleyleader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Matty Laster, even Dave Brown over here heckling us from the side here in the Cogswell Motors studios. Final segment of the Sports Blitz. Talked a lot of NBA today. One more topic in the NBA. Looks like the Golden State Warriors flew to Oklahoma City last night to try to talk to Steve Kerr one more time and convince him to take their head coaching job. If I'm Steve Kerr, it's hard for me to avoid that, to avoid talking with them, driving up the price, because I would go to the Knicks because they're in the East and the East sucks. It's just kind of like why Stan Van Gundy goes to Detroit over any other option he might have had, because you can go from here to here real quick with a team in the East, and the West is so stacked and tough. I know that for Steve Kerr, a player like Steph Curry and a team kind of like the Golden State Warriors, it's probably slightly nice, but I would probably go the East from him.
Yeah, I mean, there's pluses and minuses to all of it. I mean, he lives near the Oakland area, so that obviously helps. And then you do have the talent that they have. But like you said, the West is tough. Plus, they did fire a coach after a 50-win season, a playoff season before that. So the bar is high. And then you look in the East, you're going to be under Phil Jackson. But, I haven't heard Steve Kerr speak on this. If he goes to the Knicks, I do think he would be a puppet. But does Steve want to be a puppet? Maybe he wants to run his own system.
That's true.
Phil tabbed him. I know Phil liked him because I think he believes he'd run his triangle and not ask questions. But maybe Steve wants to do his own thing. And then even with Dolan hanging over, I don't even think Phil Jackson trusts Dolan as far as putting his hands in the mess. So, the Knicks are kind of messy. It's tough either way. The Lakers are out there, but the Lakers have mess. Kobe's hovering over that franchise. So I think there's pluses and minuses. I really don't know what he's going to do.
I'm the same way. I think he'll probably go to New York, though, just because of the fit and the fact that I think Phil Jackson will probably give him a little freedom, even though he will be kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes on him. Let's move real quickly to the NFL before we get out of here. We talked all week last week before the NFL draft about the possibility that Ryan Mallett, the backup for the New England Patriots, and Tom Brady would be going to the Houston Texans in a draft day deal or sometime during the draft, sometime after the draft. It didn't happen. Don't know what's going to happen. It looks more by the day like he's going to stay in New England. He's going to play out his contract. Next year he'll be a free agent. Well, Houston needed a quarterback. They've got Case Keenum. They've got Ryan Fitzpatrick, and then this new Savage guy, and then TJ. Yeah. I mean, they don't have a quarterback. It's one of the old Steve Spurrier thing. When you got two, you don't have one. When you got four, you got none. So they don't have a quarterback. If they thought Ryan Mallett was the answer and they didn't give what it took, that was a mistake, in my opinion. Well, apparently Andre Johnson agrees with me, because he came out this morning saying, look, I don't know if this is a place for me anymore. I'm making all this money. I'm still under contract for 3 years. I don't know if this is the place for me anymore. I'm skipping voluntary workouts. I'm going to start skipping mandatory workouts. We got to figure something out. He didn't say I want a quarterback, but somewhere between the lines he said, look, I'm not getting any younger. You need to get me a quarterback.
Yeah, and it's a tough situation. First of all, Andre Johnson has been nothing but professional during this time. Really one of the stand-up guys in the league. I get where he's coming from. I think they need to deal him, because he's at a state where he's at in his career and where the Texans are in their career. They're not aligned, and the money would make it hard to trade. But my point is, they need to sever ties, because the Texans are rebuilding. That's what they are.
Yeah, but man, Arian Foster, J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, they've got pieces. DeAndre Hopkins, if they had a quarterback, they'd be right there.
They've got some pieces, but with a new coach and what they're doing, they have this new outlook. Like Bill O'Brien is not feeling any pressure to win right now. And Andre Johnson in his career feels like he does have to win right now, this year. And I don't blame him for it. Yeah, they do have some pieces in place, but O'Brien's looking at a program. So he's saying, look, we're going to do this year. We're going to take the next step the following year and so on, get to where we want to be. Andre's saying, we've had mediocre seasons. We've had a few breakout years, but we've been 8-8 and below 500. I got to do this thing right now. The vision for the organization and the vision for his career aren't aligned right now. And, I don't know if they don't become aligned and he stays on board, what's going to happen. I don't know.
I think he's making too much money for them to really do anything about because of his age. If he were 5 years younger, this contract may not be such a big deal, but he makes a lot of money, so it's going to be hard for them to move him. He's kind of probably stuck there, but if he's trying to force their hand to go get him a quarterback, I don't necessarily blame him. I don't really like players doing that most of the time, but when a guy's been this loyal and he's had a chance to go other places and he stayed, he wants to win, and you can't really blame him for wanting to win with a team that had playoff aspirations, and then they go 2-14, and he didn't say a word.
Yeah.
He was hurt, and it was up and down, in and out. But I think they need to get him a quarterback, and I would rather them go that route than completely rebuild.
I will add this though, and this doesn't help Andre Johnson make him feel better, but you're not going to find a more confident coach than Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien believes in himself, some Bill O'Brien, and he believes he will take a Fitzpatrick or a young Savage, and he will make. Maybe not a Pro Bowl caliber. He will make a quarterback sufficient for Andre Johnson. But if you're Andre, I don't blame you for not seeing that right now.
Yeah, we'll see how that turns out. I really do think they missed the boat on Ryan Mallett. And it may be just homerism for me as a Razorback fan.
I mean, the thing with Mallett, it's hard to trade for a guy who he's on another team. You knew him a little bit.
And we also don't know what New England was asking for.
New England was asking, and I'll go back to what I said before. I know it's preseason, but anytime that's the only chance you have to show yourself and you didn't just light it up, that kind of muddies the waters too as far as your evaluation.
That's true. So New England probably just had way too high an asking price, and if that's the case, then Houston may have had to try to wait him out, and maybe they still are trying to figure something out so that they can get him. And maybe they're going after somebody else. Maybe they want Kirk Cousins or somebody like that to fix their quarterback problems. They need to do something because their quarterback situation is pretty bad.
They need Tyler Wilson. Get him from Tennessee.
Somebody, man. Anybody who would be better. I mean, Case Keenum was okay, but he was kind of that gunslinger. He was the kind of guy who seems like he could throw interceptions with a smile on his face. It's like, I don't care. I'm getting to play. I'm happy. I threw it. And Ryan Mallett, he's got a little bit more seasoning than that. He does have the guts to make the big throw, but we'll see if he actually ever makes anything in the NFL. So anything else you want to hit before we get out of here? I know we've gone a little overtime.
Yeah, we're a little bit over. Arkansas Razorback baseball gets started tomorrow, starting the Missouri series in Columbia early. The Missouri Tigers are terrible. They are 6-21 in the SEC. Yes, that is hands down the worst. Arkansas has to win the series. They really need a sweep. I mean, they really do.
They really need a sweep so that they can feel comfortable about making that regional. They haven't missed a regional in Dave Van Horn's career at Arkansas, so keep that in mind. If it would just be just like Arkansas to go lose that game to go lose a game to Missouri or two and lose that series when they have a chance. I had a thought yesterday. It was Garrett and I talking about the Indiana Pacers, and he brought up an Arkansas Razorbacks point because he said the Indiana Pacers, man, they have to throw a shutout to win, and I said, yeah, man, they're like the 2012 Razorback baseball team. If they don't, they can throw a perfect game almost, and then one hit and they lose the game 1-0. It seems like that's what happens to them, and the Indiana Pacers are sort of right there. So basketball to baseball analogy. How do you like that? So,
well, we know you had to do something to get baseball in.
Gotta get basketball. Yeah,
you like the one of those kids that like
baseball.
You got to have like some green beans, vegetables mixed into your meatloaf just so you'll eat the vegetables. You got to do that with kids.
You
That's
ain't lying.
Baseball.
If you wanted me to eat something green, you better put it with some beef. That's exactly right. That is exactly right. All right, we got to get out of here. We'll be back on Friday, same time, to talk some more sports. We'll be talking about the Miami Heat closing out the Brooklyn Nets. We'll also be talking most likely, about the Spurs closing out the Portland Trailblazers, who put up a valiant effort in Game 4.
We might be talking about Paul Pierce when we come back.
Yeah, and how much I hate his guts. And I really wish somebody would just walk up to him and punch him right in the nose. If you hear this, Paul, I didn't say that. Please don't come find me and beat me half to death because you're huge. Anyway, that's all the time we've got for today. For Weldon, Maddie, and even David, I'm Mark, saying so long. We'll see you at 11 o'clock on Friday with more Sports Blitz.